Brett Allen here chatting with actor Julie Tolivar about our new project, Flashman is in Trouble on FX, and just a big cavalcade of other projects. Thanks for your time. It's a pleasure to meet you and chat with you about
Nice
this
to
fun
meet
show.
you.
Yeah, we were laughing before we started taping when we'd already hit record about some things. We may throw that in there at the end because that stuff's always fun.
I think they
Uh,
might want to hear about that.
yeah, they might. Well, congratulations on this project. This is just
Thank
a
you.
really great show. And FX, I think, has found their sweet spot for this type of show and content. Just very smartly written, funny, and it just has some great people attached to it, present company included. If people
Thanks.
haven't watched, what can they expect?
Well, the show is, I mean, it's about a lot of things, but it's a lot about marriage, middle age, all the things that we think should be occurring in middle age, and then
Yeah.
the things that really occur. But divorce, shared custody. There's been a lot of interesting talk about the different themes of the show, but
Mhm.
Jesse Eisenberg plays a liver specialist in a hospital, and he is married to Claire Danes and then divorced to Claire Danes, and it's kind of about their divorce and how they navigate that, how they navigate the shared custody of their children, and then of course Jesse is sort of rediscovering himself through the age of internet dating and things like that. But I think it's about a lot of stuff. I think.
Yeah. Well, as a 49-year-old who has been through all of the things and concurrently is still is, I find the show highly relatable in many different ways.
Yeah,
Uh, from
I think a lot of
everything.
people do. Yeah.
I mean, we have and I will say this because I know that she might watch this and she has watched My Son's Mother. Our relationship is not as convoluted as this show, but I get the
Well,
idea
that's
of
good. Congratulations.
co-parenting. We have a very good relationship, but this is not a therapy session for me. But we do
We can do that
well.
later.
Yeah, we could do that later. But yeah, it's just it's I get it. It makes perfect sense. And you can tell oftentimes when these things are written, it comes from personal experience for maybe one of the writers or something that they've dealt with. So you look at it and go, this makes sense. It's not like just some writer's room off somewhere in the valley that's trying to come up with quirky, funny things. It makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. What was
Yeah.
it about it that attracted you to the project specifically?
Um, well, it's extremely relatable, as you were saying, for a lot of people. It's very real and raw. I live in New York and lived there a long time, minus a few years here and there in LA, but it really is, in some ways, I mean, it's very resonant with people who live in New York, married people in New York. So that, of course, got my attention. The people working on it got my attention. I've always admired Claire and Jesse's work. And I have to say, I didn't know much about Lizzie Kaplan's work or her as an actress, but she's fantastic on the show.
Oh, she's great.
And she's so great. And I just think the writing is really smart. And as you said, it's very personal. It doesn't seem like it's just sort of being created to be funny or kitschy. Like
Right.
it's very real. And sometimes I feel like uncomfortably so. But I think that that's a lot of time like why we watch television, why we watch movies is because we either want to learn or see something of our own lives reflected. Just so that kind of we know we're not on this journey of life on our own. And I don't know, that's kind of what I appreciated about the show. Also, there was this interesting thing about Karen and her trip to Las Vegas and all the funny, crazy things she did. And I'm originally from New Orleans, so I could relate a little bit to those things.
Okay.
But yeah, there
Uh
was just, I don't know, there was a lot of, I just feel like it touches a lot of people in a deep place, and it did for me. So
yes, yes, agreed. And Lizzie is fantastic from her early
yeah.
days on Party Down, on Stars, and then Truth Be Told, and just other things along the way that she has done. The cast is really smart. And again, your character in particular is fun to watch because I think we do enjoy that uncomfortableness watching things happen on screen and going,
Yeah.
man, I've maybe been through that, or thank God I haven't been through that, or how would I respond if I did go through that? I'm not really sure how one might come out of that. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it fun. do you find yourself, obviously you mentioned you've had some shared experiences, but with other characters that you've played, do you find yourself always attaching to that character and maybe finding something in you that's part of them that you've played on screen?
I think you kind of have to.
Okay.
It's impossible. I mean, at least I feel that it's impossible to completely separate yourself from a character. And I think it's human nature to want to relate to, God, I don't know, maybe your friends, or like even as an actor, it's impossible to disassociate yourself from the character you're playing. However, I will say that, sometimes you have to do that more than others, obviously. And that's part of acting. I mean, that's why I train. That's why anyone trains and coaches. And the more I think distant you are from the character, the more you have to use your imagination and kind of create those imaginary circumstances so that you can actually inhabit the person that you're playing.
Yes, it's funny that you mentioned that, just where my mind went. We were doing press for a film, and one of the actors, his name escapes me, but he played Dexter's brother on Dexter on Showtime for the first few seasons.
Yeah, I love
And
Dexter.
yeah, and the point he was making is like, yeah, I'm not really a psychopath or a murderer in life, but I think we all have a little bit of maybe some of those things inside of us. We just don't like to admit it. And I think what makes acting so believable and fun is that there are pieces, as you mentioned, that you can connect with, and
Well, yeah, and
it
and
makes it
also
believable.
you can't sort of create this, say, for example, like if you're playing a murderer or someone that I don't know, a really, I don't know, some villain or something. And you can't just sort of create this caricature. You have to make them human. So whether
Right.
that's finding pieces of yourself or someone that's close to you so that they're not a caricature, but an actual human being. So yeah.
Well, you do a good job. It's very believable, and I think
Well,
we find
thanks.
ourselves absolutely laughing, uh and or maybe going, should I be laughing at this? Is this
I
really
know, right?
funny? Or this is so damn true that it's uncomfortable. But I think that's where you can find success in a project, right? Is if you hear feedback from the audience and they go, this is really good, almost too good, but in a positive way, if
Well,
that makes
that's what,
sense.
yeah, I mean, the scene with Jesse, where, he's having this dream about, I play Karen Cooper, this patient of his, and he has this dream about me. And I go in there and there's like a face licking thing that happens. Sorry, spoiler alert.
That's all
But
right. Well, but you'll be
um,
okay.
it was, yeah, I think it's okay. But it kind of happened, like spur of the moment on set, and they were like, well, what if this happens? I think it was Robert Pulcini who was and his wife Sherry who were directing that episode, and they were like, what if? And at the time, I was actually pregnant, and Jesse was very concerned that there might be something toxic in his makeup. He's very
Uh,
sweet.
that's funny.
So he made this comment. He said, "Is it okay? Is there hemlock in my makeup, or should we be?" I was like, "I think it's okay."
That's funny.
Yeah.
I love it. Casey just popped in. So I
Oh,
knew,
good.
yeah. So we'll draw attention to her. Um, Very cool. Well, I always like to ask this because I find it fascinating.
Mhm.
Everybody's journey as an actor is different. Where did
Mhm.
that begin for you? Was it something that you were naturally attracted to, or did it happen later and make you go, okay, I think this is something that I would like to do full time versus something different?
Um, I was very young. I started doing theater. I think I was like 5 or 6, and I just loved it. I loved being on stage. I liked the imaginary world of all of it. Plus, I really loved creative people. So getting to do something that I loved and be around the type of people that I really connected with and I liked being around was a win-win. And so I just kept doing it. I kept doing it. And yeah, I went to school and I studied and then went straight to New York. And I know that's kind of a stereotypical story, and I wish it was a little bit more interesting. But yeah, it's kind of always been me. It's in my blood. It's who I am. It's interesting. Even when you're not acting, I mean, we've all had those moments as actors where it's a few months or God forbid, a year or so before you get a job or you get a job that you really want to do, and you wonder, God, am I still an actor? And for me, I keep coming back to yes, because it's not related to whether you're working or not. It's just sort of who you are.
Yeah, yeah, because it would be very easy to give up, especially if,
Yeah.
I mean, a month or two is a very small time frame, especially when 2 years comes like a pandemic, like we were talking about, and
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
wondering if they're ever going to go back to work again.
yeah.
Uh, that's so
The
interesting.
comforting thing, if there is a comforting thing about that, was that, everybody was kind of in the same boat and we were all going, God, is this industry ever going to come back?
Right.
And the answer is yes. And, it's came back slowly and in different ways with lots and lots of COVID testing. But yeah, it is back and, thank God for that. So,
Yeah, there were a lot of people who were just doing it and taking risks and saying, let's just figure it out. I don't know if you saw that Netflix film Windfall with Jason Segel, but he was talking in an interview about the fact that
mhm.
it was like, we have to figure something out and get creative to make this work because other people are doing it. And
Yeah.
as a side note, your story, I always find it interesting. It could be New York, it could be LA, but that's like, I think, how the path begins for most people. So, why New York versus LA? Was there something that attracted you to one versus the other? Was it family?
Well, I studied theater in school, and so that was
Okay.
the natural progression to New York for me. I started
Broadway.
off doing theater and yeah, doing Broadway and doing theater in the city and around the country regionally, and then I worked in the theater for a long time in New York, which I guess you could say is my first love. And then I moved out to LA and started doing more TV and film. And my husband's business kind of took off and found myself back in New York. So it's funny how that kind of comes full circle. But no, there are things that I love about both cities. I mean, God, the weather in LA, I mean, it sounds like a stereotype, but it's definitely to be considered. I'm from New Orleans originally, like I said, and so I could never get used to the winters in New York. They do not agree with me. However, the city does have like a definite vibe. It has a soul. I mean, the people there are kind of, I don't know, I hate to say they're more gritty than people in LA because LA
No,
has
I've
its
heard
fair
that
share of
hundreds of times,
grit. I mean,
literally.
I know, but it's I mean, listen, you can kind of find each city has its soul. It's just kind of walks to a different rhythm, it just you have to kind of find your groove and find like-minded people no matter where you live. And I kind of feel like you can do that anywhere. So,
I've heard that dozens of times before, like
mhm.
New York, especially on the comedy side. LA is a bunch of industry, not knocking any of that, but New
No, no.
York is really where you can cut your teeth and you're like, this is where I'm going to do it. I think that's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, but there are lots of people that I know in LA who are creating work. I mean,
Yeah.
actors and creatives in LA really are extremely proactive in a way that I mean, I haven't always seen in New York. I mean, people are writing their own stuff. They're really hitting the pavement. So it's not that it's not happening in LA.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
last question.
Hmm.
Again, just looking at your career and all the things that you've done, including this one, is there something, not that you're just throwing scripts away every day necessarily, but is there something, very few people get to do that. Is there something that you look for in a project that's important to you?
Um, I think just knowing that the script resonates with you. And, like I said before, part of the reason that I was drawn to this was, because of the team that was attached to it, not only the actors, but also the directors, and knowing that the things that they've worked on in the past. I don't know, it's kind of like when you meet somebody, right? And you're dating and you're like, why is it that I'm drawn to this person? And sometimes you don't have the answers. You just know when it's a good fit and when it's not. So
Yeah. And then sometimes you might be like asking the same question years later, going,
I
why am I
don't know what you're
interested?
talking about.
I love it. Well, congratulations, Julie, on this project. Fleischman is in trouble on
Thank you.
FX. When can we expect new episodes?
Oh goodness. I don't know. I mean, it was originally, I think, intended to be a limited series, but who knows? Maybe there will be more. But I'll leave that question mark in the air hanging.
Lovely. Well, congratulations. I love your work in this and other things that you've done. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure meeting
Thanks,
you and
Brett.
chatting with you. Absolutely.